Welcome to Here's My Thing, everybody. I'm your host, Frankie Salazar, and today we're going to be talking about none other than the Epstein Files. Now, this show, when I started it originally, was supposed to be more like pop culture-y, entertainment, crazy, funny. I wanted to play games. I almost wanted it to be the essence of late night television. Now, don't get me wrong, late night television is very controversial and they do talk a lot about politics and in particular the Epstein Files. So it's not like I'm kind of deviating or kind of derailing myself off the tracks of, since the inception of my show, but I did kind of want to talk about this topic because, it's huge and hopefully it gets me some views, I'm going to keep it a buck. If it's a big story currently, even if I don't care about it, if I feel like I can ride the wave or, milk the cow of whatever story is going on right now, trust, I'm going to talk about it, even if I don't care about it in particular. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing. It's not looking good for my boy Epstein. And I don't think it could get worse for him, considering that he's dead. But even after his death, things have gotten absolutely worse. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. It's absolutely getting worse every single day. And there is a huge controversy surrounding the files associated with him, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know Jeffrey Epstein, I personally don't know much about him, but in my novice understanding, he is a financier, a broker of some sorts. He was big in the finance world. That's all you got to know. And he also owned, I want to say, 2 private islands and multiple private jets. So this is a guy who allegedly committed suicide in his own prison cell in one of the most maximum security prisons after he was literally put on a suicide watch, meaning you don't get nothing in there, nothing. You're not even allowed to have, you can't tie your own shoes, you can't eat your own food, you are under total crazy 24/7 surveillance all the time, okay? Now, that's what the main media wants you, that's what they want you to believe, is that Epstein killed himself, right? We all know he ain't do that. But he was a very powerful man who was accused of running an illegal and disgusting CP, sex trafficking ring, okay? And he kept a record of flight logs and what's referred to as a client list of all the high-profile visitors that came to his island. Okay, we're talking the Clintons, we're talking the Trumps, we're talking other wealthy businessmen on Wall Street that you've never heard of. We're talking about celebrities, we're talking about kings, queens, princesses, the works. It's bad. But since his death, the story that's been sold to everybody is leaving more questions than answers. Now, we're not going to get into the nitty and gritty of who he is or what the allegations are, but the recent controversy surrounding him is whether or not the government, the current government under the Trump administration, is trying to cover up the truth and or postpone releasing the files into non-existence. Do you get what I'm saying? Any single way you slice it, it looks as though they're trying to make it seem as though they don't even exist, and that's a little scary. Because we, the American people, are interested to know what's going on with all of these high-profile people that may or may not have been involved with crimes against children, but I digress. It's alleged that Epstein, because like I said, he kept very accurate flight logs and visitor books and client lists and things like that. It's alleged that he made use of blackmail. Okay, he blackmailed all of these people and threatened some very high-profile clientele like politicians and musicians and CEOs and all that stuff. Now, flash forward, the Department of Justice just earlier this month released a memo stating that there was, quote, no incriminating client list, which is crazy because it is a material fact that it exists, and we're going to get to why we know that a little bit later. The memo also states that there was, quote, no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals around his actions. Now, here's the problem with that. The Attorney General, appointed by President Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, when she was questioned on whether or not they would release the client list, she said, quote, it's sitting on my desk right now to review. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put a clip of that right now.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen? It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
Now, lo and behold, nothing substantial has been released, despite Pam Bondi's claims that there are thousands, in her own words, thousands of videos containing Epstein engaging in CP, and there being hundreds, in her own words, of victims. Because of what's been going on, Congressman Ro Khanna of California, the one who pioneered the movement to keep TikTok, by the way, we covered that months ago when that was going on. He had a whole petition. He got millions of people to sign on it. This is a very influential congressman, okay? A Democratic congressman from California. He filed a motion to force the Department of Justice to release the files because he's like, this is getting absolutely insane. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says that there's a client list, there's footage of victims, yada, 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 yada. But the Department of Justice is also saying that there's absolutely nothing going on, which I find hard to believe. But when the motion hit the congressional floor, because when a congressman just puts something out like that, they don't just have, they have no authority to just twist a whole Department of Government's arm to do anything, right? That it has to go to a vote. And unfortunately, it was shot down by every single Republican in Congress. In a 211 to 210 vote, a Republican-led Congress had shot the bill down. Now, here's the problem. This is when the tables shift to President Trump, okay? President Trump is implicated in this particularly because as part of his campaign promise, it was huge. It was a huge story that he got all the people that voted for him, right? He got every single MAGA voter riled up in the, yes, let's get Epstein, right? We're going to release all the files. We're going to, because we all know the conspiracy. In particular, Republicans in particular, the MAGA ones, believe that the Clintons are the ones that are trying to cover up the story. But he seems to be doing a complete 180 on his promise, okay? And he's in no such hurry to release them. He doesn't want to. It doesn't seem like he wants to, you know. He in a quote, he quote tweeted, not to waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein any longer. Okay? Just take a listen to what he has to say to a reporter who asks, again, because they keep pressing him on the issue about the Epstein Files. Go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the staff?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1
Sure.
second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Now, here's the problem. We know that dating back to the 90s, since the early 90s, that Trump and Epstein are more than familiar with one another, all right? And they have a public relationship dating back to the 90s, like I just said, even calling him a terrific guy. Now, I'm somebody that likes to play the devil's advocate, and Trump is hands down the craziest salesman I have ever heard of and seen in action in my entire life, because it just seems to me that with Trump, like if he was going to sell you this mug, right? If he was going to sell you this mug, he can't just say, "Oh, this mug is wonderful. It fills 12 ounces of fluid. You're going to love it. It feels nice in your hand. It's made out of beautiful ceramic." He's going to say something to the effect of, "It's a terrific mug. It is the best in the world, probably the best that the world has ever seen. You can't live without it. It's a terrific mug. It's black like my favorite African Americans." He's going to say some crazy shit like that. And I don't think that it's particularly malicious. I think that back then, like I said, playing devil's advocate, I don't know if he was calling him a terrific guy in the sense of he actually liked the guy, or he, again, is like, "Oh, he's a terrific guy," because he has something to prove. He's got something to prove. He wants to show his wealth, his status, his power, and he doesn't want to be seen with, I guess what he would deem like a weak individual. Now, you can slice that whichever way you want, but it doesn't look good when you call a convicted child predator a terrific guy. No shade. But here is one silver lining. Now, this is all per PBS News, okay? They say that there's no record of him on the islands. There's no record of him on the islands. There's no evidence of him on the islands where the alleged stuff had taken place. But there is record of him being on the planes. But being on the islands, there isn't. So I guess it's kind of like the one silver lining, and Trump stands firm to the belief or the, not belief because he's saying it in his own words, the conviction that he is not on the island. And in a Lex Friedman interview, he even says that he never visited, and he uses the word fortunately. Probably because he knows that he's under a lot of pressure right now because of this madness. He uses the word fortunately. I fortunately did not visit the island. Now, if that is true, that is very fortunate, Mr. Trump, because I myself, particularly as a president, would not want to have been proven to be or even implicated in engaging in CP, but that's just me. But this isn't just a partisan issue, okay? Because we do have Bill Clinton on the plane as well. So if we're going to throw the book at Donald Trump, we have to pivot it over to the Democrats as well, because this is not a partisan issue. It really isn't. Right now, Republicans are trying to cover something or someone up. And it makes it hard to not believe that it isn't Trump, because he's paramount right now. He is as high as it goes for the Republican Party, and they are going to die on the hill of trying to bury this story. So it doesn't look good for Republicans. But what I don't understand is why Democrats are so gung-ho about doing it, particularly when the Clintons are involved in it as well. Now, here's my thing. Like I just said a moment ago, obviously, Trump is implicated in this pretty bad. Because when your entire Republican-held Congress, which he's going to lose in these upcoming elections, primarily because of this stuff, because now we have even Republicans, turning against him, this alone is making people kind of, it's a scary, touchy subject, and Trump is for one of the first times, in my opinion, not delivering on some of his promises. But this is a huge one. This is a huge one. This is government corruption at its finest, and it doesn't seem to me that it's a coincidence that Republicans are trying to hide it. But I also don't believe that, just because every single Democratic congressperson is for it, I don't think that, unless they know something that we don't, which of course they do, but I mean, they're definitely going to implicate a lot of high-profile Democratic leaders right now. So I don't know if these people are being tipped off or granted immunity somehow, but if the Clintons are involved, and for the record, because I said their name, I am not suicidal, okay? Today is, what is today? The 23rd of July, as I'm filming this right now, okay, in my mother's garage, we all know. I, Francisco Joseph Salazar, we're bringing out the government, bitch, am not suicidal, okay? No shade. But if this is a nonpartisan issue, or a bipartisan issue, I guess, where we can all kind of come to the general consensus that everybody is involved no matter what the political party is, it's pretty scary when you think about it. I mean, yeah, from, the Attorney General saying one thing about how they exist, and then the Department of Justice saying it isn't, then the Republicans shooting it down, but then we find out the Democratic politicians are on the island, are on the plane, are on the client list, all that stuff. I think it's way above my pay grade, and I'm just talking about it, like I said, in my studio in New York City, not in my mom's garage. And that's just kind of my take on it, is right now it does not look good for Donald Trump in particular, and the Republicans as well. And I fear that if they want to maintain control, which I'm not particularly against, but they're going to have to do something. And right now, it is not good. Now, recently, Trump did say that he's calling for the Department of Justice to release everything and yada, 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 yada. But same with the JFK files, same with the MLK files, same with all of these things that and the CIA and all this stuff. Again, the government has been lying to us since its inception. And I don't see why we would believe for any reason that they wouldn't be doing that now. But like I said, that was my thing. Trump needs to get it together if he wants to ever give the Republicans a chance of winning again, and be a little more transparent. Because if what he's saying is true, that he's not on it, who is he protecting? Because I personally believe that this goes above him. You know, a lot of people want to implicate him in particular, but, you know, it's not like he could lose an election again. He pretty much has nothing to lose right now by releasing them if he isn't on them. But at the end of the day, this has been Here's My Thing, starring Frankie Salazar. This one was a little controversial, a little off topic. Hopefully I was able to make some jokes and keep it a little light. You know, keep it a little light. But I'm just a little scared to post this one. That's all right. As always, I would love to hear your thing on the topic. Do you think that Epstein killed himself? Do you think that Trump is the one they're protecting? Do you think it goes above him? Do you think that Democrats are more involved than they're seemingly making it out to be? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and you can let me know down in the comment section below or by TikTok or wherever you find this. I would love to hear it. And I will see you in the next one.